When we can pass parameters to an instance of a class. In order to do that, we use constructors. Hello world! Am I allowed to start this episode in a slightly different way? Yeah? Are you sure? Thanks! Why did I ask? I wanted to mention my other social media accounts really quickly. You find them in the description, and if the video editor doesn't mess this up, there should be some useful information on the screen right now. I am on Twitter, which is my most used social media besides YouTube. You might miss some funny tweets and useful information if you don't follow me there. Just saying. Instagram follows right after Twitter. I post some pictures here and there. This might be really interesting if you care about my environment. I'm also on Facebook, which is basically the same as Twitter. I just don't like it that much. However, I would appreciate to see some new followers on my social media sites. Thank you, you are amazing. Let's go back to teaching mode and continue with the actual episode. As I told you before the intro, I'm going to teach you something about constructors today. If you missed the intro before the intro completely, constructors are used to pass parameters to an instance of a class. As we speak of parameters, can we pass parameters to methods? Good thinking, much appreciated viewer of my videos. The answer to your question is yes, we can. How? Guess what? You will learn that in this episode. Before we do anything new, I want to correct something from the last episode. Yeah, I admit it, I made a mistake. The first letter of the width and the length variables should actually be capitalized. Everything in C# is capitalized except for variables which are declared inside methods and parameters. Since that is now out of the way, I can start the episode without feeling bad for telling you something wrong. I have no idea why I didn't think of this, but whatever, learning from mistakes is always a good way to learn correct programming. I guess you will never forget the capitalization in C# now. And I know, a lot of people are writing their global variables, the ones which are defined in the class, without the capital letter at the beginning. But that's actually wrong. I put a link to an official Microsoft site in the description where they explain the capitalization rules of C#. Again, everything with a capitalized first letter, except for variables defined inside methods and parameters. I know, I started this episode in a weird way. First talking about constructors, then mentioning my social medias, and then starting it off with methods? I need another script writer. Sorry guys, I will tell him how bad these scripts are sometimes after the episode. He should really put more effort into them. Anyway, I'm not here to complain about the scripts. Altogether, they are pretty well written. I already talked about methods in the last episode. Therefore, if you didn't see the video, you should watch it. The link is in the description and in the top right corner of the video as well. Just click on that eye. But why are you repeating this topic then? Good question. Good question. Let me show you something educational away from programming. You may have heard of that. I'm talking about the learning and forgetting curve. The studies which show that you have to repeat to remember things. There are many diagrams about this study. As you can see in this one here, the percentage you forget gets lower and lower as you repeat newly learned topics. So don't judge me if I repeat things from time to time. Judge your brain for not remembering everything after the first time you heard about a specific subject. My advice is to repeat the things you learn every second or third day. Watch my video again or write your own code to repeat every technique you learned from my videos. Stay until the end of the video and I will give you some ideas about what you can program while waiting for my next video. I still said nothing about methods, even though the script guy wrote methods as the header of this paragraph. I should really start talking about methods now. Since you understood everything from the basic syntax episode, you know what a method is. Obviously, we can specify the return type of a method, but we can also pass parameters into methods. Keep this in mind, this is very important to remember. We can give variables to a method it wouldn't have access to otherwise. This is often used in object-oriented programming because you need to pass variables into methods which are in other classes. And you do not want to make all your variables public. Very bad practice. Before we get to the declaration of a method which takes parameters, we need a good example like in the last episode. Unfortunately, I have to go away from the last example. Well, actually, this might be a pretty good situation to test yourself. I want you to create a class called math, which should be instantiated in the main method. If you feel confident about creating and instantiating a class, pause the video and do it yourself. If you can't make it, please return to the video before you go absolutely crazy. Has everyone paused the video who wants to try for themselves? Am I good to continue? Well, I think so. As you know, right click, add class, name it, go back to the main method, instantiate the new math class, and done. No problem at all, right? What could a math class do? Correct, dividing two numbers and returning the result. You know how to return a value, but how do we pass parameters to the method? Also, think about the return type. Which one would you use? Did you say float? Well, that's right. Because the result of a division could easily have decimal places. 5 divided by 2, for example. Okay, I will show you how to declare a method which takes parameters. If you didn't figure it out already, which might be possible. Public, since we want to be able to call the method from other classes. Float, the return type of the method. Divide, the name of the method. Float, dividend as the first parameter. Float, divisor as the second parameter. The body for this method is not difficult at all. Return, dividend, divided by the divisor. All we have to do now is to call the method from the main method and give it some values to calculate the result. Math.divide 5f 2f. The f after the numbers specifies them as floats. I know, it would work without it if the numbers don't have decimal places. But try it with decimal places and you will get an error. The default data type of numbers with decimal places is double. So it tries to parse a double value into a float value, which doesn't work. Just put an f at the end and it will work either way. Because we specify the return value for the divide method, we can directly write it to the console. What if we want to pass parameters to another class right when we instantiate it? That's where constructors come in play. Constructors are very simple. Let's go back to the rectangle class to implement a constructor. It makes sense to be able to set the width and the length right when you instantiate the rectangle. So let's write a constructor for the rectangle class. Public rectangle int width int length. In the body, we declare what should happen directly after instantiation. Width, which is the global variable, equals width, which is the parameter. Do the same for the length. What did we just do? We made it possible to set the global variables width and length of a new rectangle right when we instantiate it. We made it also possible to process some code on instantiation. Most of the time constructors are only used to pass parameters to a new instance of a class. It's good practice not to have too much logic in constructors. What about some examples for you to try until the next episode before I conclude the video? What could you try to program? Actually, you could implement a multiply, add and subtract method in the math class. But I think I got something more interesting for you. Create a book class. Make it possible to give it a name and an author on instantiation. And implement a method to set and get the text of a book. Don't worry about user input at the moment. You can hard code everything. I just want some hard coded books. If you can't make it, feel free to ask in the comment section. I'm sure someone will help you. Or just wait for the next episode. I will go over my implementation really quickly. That's it, everyone. Achievement unlocked. Methods and constructors. And wow, was it hard to record this video. It's about 30 degrees Celsius in my room. Fresh air? What are you talking about? I can't open the window or you would hear all sorts of noises which don't belong to this video. But hey, it's still fun to record the tutorials, even if you are literally soaking wet all the time because it's so hot. And remember, stay sharp. Thanks for watching.